Hey guys, Mike here, the Detroit Borg, with a look at the new Nexus 5. So I have both colors here, white and black, and there are some design differences we're going to take a look at in this video. This is also launching with KitKat, or Android 4.4, which is the latest version of the software, so we're going to take a look at some of those features in here as well. Now this lists for $349 at 16 gigs or $399 for 32 gigs, so only $50 more gets you twice the storage, so I definitely recommend that. Now these are both LTE devices, so they will work in the US on AT&T and T-Mobile on their 4G carrier networks. Now once again, Google is partnering with LG as they did with the Nexus 4. So the Nexus 4, as you may be aware of, has been discontinued and replaced by the Nexus 5. This is a slightly larger phone. This is a 4.95-inch screen versus a 4.7-inch. And this is a full 1080p LCD IPS display with a pixel density of 445 pixels per inch. To give you some perspective, the iPhone 5S has a pixel density of 326. So this is a pretty rich display. So let's go ahead and crack into these things and take a look. So we're going to start off with the black model. So we have a little sleeve we can push through here. So this is pretty familiar Nexus packaging. You can see on the back it has Bluetooth capabilities. And we're going to talk about specs as well, so you can see some of our information along the side with lots of tabs here to cut. So let's go ahead and do that. Now this is powered by a Snapdragon quad-core 800 processor, just like the LG G2 and a lot of other high-end smartphones right now. This also has 2 gigs of RAM and the Adreno 330 GPU, or the graphics processor. So let's go and take a look on the inside, and there we go. Our Nexus 5 sitting right there. And incidentally here, you can see our Google branding on the box. Looks like we got a little dust here, so let me wipe that off here. Alright, so we can tip this over. There is our Nexus 5. You can see that's that matte plastic, which kind of has a nice unibody design here. From edge to edge is the same material, which I actually really like. All right, let's take a look at the contents of the packaging before we look at the phone. So we have a little tray here. Looks like there's nothing in it. We have a little door. And underneath we'll find some literature. Actually, there is our SIM ejection tool, which is a little different. So let me pull that out to take a look at it. There you go. Now we have several pamphlets here in different languages outlining some of the features here, including NFC technology, and this does have wireless charging built in. So you can buy a Qi charger for this. In fact, Google sells one, but it's not available at the time of filming. I'll buy that and review it later, but this will work with any wireless Qi charger. We have our safety and warranty information, again, in different languages. All right, on the inside we have our wall adapter here. So there we go, our glossy LG branded wall adapter, single USB port. We also have our USB micro USB charging cable. And there we go, it's pretty much a standard micro USB charging cable, no LG branding. Alright, so let's get back to our phone here, and we do have a sticker with our IMEI information, as well as a sticker covering our camera lens. The only piece of plastic otherwise is on the front, covering the front of the display. So let's go ahead and peel this off. There you go, and we also have a little tab up here. Now we have a little pull tab up here to lift up, and there is our phone. So let's go ahead and unbox the white one and take a look at the design differences. Now if you look at the packaging of the white one, you can see it's slightly different here, just to indicate the white back panel. So let's go ahead, slide this out, push it through, it slides right out. Of course you have your Google branding and our tabs to cut, so let's get that out of the way. Alright, so just lift the lid. There is our Nexus 5 in white, but it doesn't look very white right now, and that's because the white is on the back. We do have a white earpiece, and we'll take a look at that when we take a closer look at the differences, but as you can see we have a black earpiece versus that white earpiece. Just tip this over to reveal it. So there we have our white back panel, and as you can see we have plastic surrounding the bezel this time. So we have a glossy bezel versus that sort of unibody matte finish. So let's just peel this off. Now as you can see, each strip has its own tab to pull off. Now we still have that sticker on the back panel, which I'm going to peel off as well. And we have the sticker around the camera lens. Of course we have the plastic over the front. Now if you look at the accessories for the white model, there is no differences here. So we have the same literature, we have the same micro USB cable, and the same USB wall adapter. Now when you look at the display, there really is only one thing that separates the two in terms of their design. So we have a white earpiece on the white model, that black earpiece on the black model. Now when you turn it around, you have your black back panel, which is sort of a rubbery texture material with that Nexus logo carved and that landscape orientation. The white panel is also a matte texture, but it's much smoother. It's not a rubbery texture. This also translates to the side of the device. So if you look at the side, you can see that the matte material on the black version wraps the edges of the phone, while on the white one, you get this glossy material, which sort of wraps around the front of the phone. So you can kind of see, creates kind of a seamless look here from the glass of the phone to the glossy black plastic along the side. A little different here with the matte finish. So I guess you get two design philosophies here. So you get a back panel that wraps around the edges, or a front panel that wraps around the edges. Now if we look at the left edge, we'll find the volume rocker, and it's actually made out of ceramic. So although it kind of looks like it's a metal material, it's actually ceramic. Along the bottom, we'll find our speaker grills, as well as our microphone, and our micro USB charging port, which is also a slim port for connecting HDMI adapter, so you can output this to an HD TV. Along the right side, we'll find our SIM tray. This is a micro SIM, along with our sleep-wake button, which again is also ceramic. And as you can see, the buttons are the same on both devices. Now on the top, we'll find a microphone along with a headphone jack. Now if we look at the camera module, you can see it does protrude a little bit from the back of the device, and if you place it flat on the surface, it will kind of rock around just a little bit. Now on the front of the display, we do have a 1.3 megapixel front-firing camera. That's good for 720p video. We also have that circular earpiece, which is a little unconventional, but looks kind of sharp here. And along the bottom, you see there are no off-screen Android controls. Of course, this is a Nexus device, and most Nexus devices have on-screen controls only. Now, like all Nexus devices, we do have an LED notification light at the bottom of the display. Alright, so let me go ahead and show you that SIM tray again. They give you that little SIM ejection tool. Pops out. And inside you'll find your tray, which is a metal tray with a sort of a rubber plastic material at the edge. Same with the white version. Here you can just see that the edge of it is glossy, but you still have a metal tray as well. Now once again, the great thing about a Nexus device is that you get the latest versions of Android. This is running Android 4.4 or KitKat, and of course this is stock. So this is the complete stock experience, so we don't have any skins or anything getting in the way. We also have a few exclusive Nexus features, which we'll talk about. Alright, so we can take a look at our user interface starting with the lock screen. So we still have our notification shade with our settings panel up here. Now you can also access this with a two-finger gesture. Again, that's nothing new here. Now we have a new feature here for location. So they've added this toggle to quickly access notification features, which you can quickly toggle on and off or manage specific apps that have access to your locations. Now if we go back to the lock screen, we can also swipe to get to our camera app really quickly. You can also get to Google just by swiping up from the bottom. They get you to Google Now, which gives you a new user interface. Now, if we get to the home screen here, you can see that we have our standard array of home screens. You can also see they've done a slight redesign here. So they've eliminated the cyan color. They've changed the font to a new, more condensed Roboto font. And if you swipe all the way to the left, you now get Google Now. You can still access Google Now just by swiping up on the home button. So let's go back to the home screen, swipe up. Takes you right to that same panel. So this time you just swipe all the way over to get to it. Now this also gives me a chance to show off the new user interface. So you can see with KitKat, you now have the ability to have full screen apps, which basically sort of create a translucency to the system tray up here. So you can see that the badges are now kind of uniform in color. They're just white, as well as the system information up here. You can also see your Android controls are now translucent. That extends to the home screen here. Now, not all apps will take advantage of that, so there you go. You can see that it's blacked out. Same with the system tray up here, but apps will be able to take advantage of this pretty soon. Speaking of Google Now, you can see that we now have sort of a new refresh animation, which is kind of nice. You can see all of your Google Now cards. You also have some of your settings here. From here, you can set up a reminder. And if you go back here, you can see some of the other cards you can add or change. And you also have some of your settings here, so you can change exactly what information you want Google Now to show you. Now, we also have a new home screen editor. Just tap and hold anywhere on one of your home screens, and it gets you to this little editor, so you can see all of your home screens available to you, which you can reposition just by tapping and holding it and moving them around, so you can rearrange your home screens. Tap and hold that again gets you to some other settings, such as your wallpapers. So this is where you can set up your wallpapers, and as you can see, you get a little preview, a full screen preview of what your wallpapers will look like, and then once you're done, you can go ahead and select Set Wallpaper. I'm going to stick with the default one. Now you can also jump to your widgets. So from here you can add your widgets to your home screen. So let me go ahead and add one of them. Let's go ahead and add this Google Drive one. There you go. It just shows you how that works. We also have quick access to our Google Now settings. So you can toggle on Google Now, so you can turn it off if you prefer. You also have phone search, voice search, account and privacy information, notifications, as well as help and feedback. Now this is the 32 gig version. I also have the 16 gig version in black. So if we go to our settings here, we have to go to storage. You see that we have roughly 27 gigs still available to me after 32 gigs were initially available. So you can see that stock Android doesn't take up as much space as something like a skin version of Android. That's one of the benefits here. Now we also have a phone dialer which sort of integrates with Google search to bring up contacts nearby that may be interesting to you. So for example, you can not only search your local contacts, but it will automatically suggest contacts nearby. So for example, if I type animal in my search box, I get Millbrook Animal Clinic, which I have in my address book, but I also get all these other recommendations for nearby locations. Now from the home screen, you can also activate Google just by saying, "Okay, Google, what's the weather like tomorrow in San Francisco?"
Tomorrow's forecast for San Francisco is 73 degrees and partly cloudy.
"Okay, Google, how tall is the Empire State Building?"
The Empire State Building is 1,454 feet tall.
Now, unlike the Motorola phones like the Moto X, you can't do this from the lock screen. So you can't say, "Okay, Google," and wake it up. You also can't do it when you're inside an app. So for example, if you're in the browser, "Okay, Google," nothing happens. "Okay, Google, set an appointment for 3 p.m. This also means that voice recognition is not keyed specifically to your voice like it is with the Motorola phones. Now we have our standard stock Android controls including back, home, as well as recent apps. And as you can see, the animations are a little simpler this time. So if you go to your recent apps, you can quickly browse through your recent apps and launch them pretty quickly. And you can also swipe them out of the way if you prefer. Now let's go and take a look at our app drawer. And most of these apps we're pretty familiar with, and some of them have been updated with KitKat. So we have a new downloads app, which I don't have anything to show you here, but this allows you to sort by name, by modified, and by size. Also see a list view or grid view. And also you have a new email app. So the email app now resembles the Gmail app. So as you can see, it looks a lot like Gmail. So finally updated to kind of come into line with the other Gmail app. We have Google. It takes you to Google as well. You also have the new Google Settings app. This allows you to control things like Google+, connected apps, location, also your Android device manager, which is now integrated with KitKat, so you can now remotely control your device or locate your device. So for example, this kind of is similar to Find My iPhone, allows you to reset it or lock it or wipe it. You have your Hangouts app, which is now the default messaging app, and that now finally integrates SMS. And we also have Keep, Google Keep, which we're familiar with. It's basically a reminder app. This also integrates with Google Now, so your reminders will appear under Google Now. We also have the Maps app, which is unchanged, News and Weather. Again, pretty familiar here. And we also have our contacts. Here we have a new phone dialer, which I showed you earlier. We also have Photos. This is kind of a new app. Basically, this is similar to Google Plus Photos. You aggregate your photos both on the device as well as in your cloud. So you can see everything that's been uploaded to the cloud. You get these little check marks in the cloud, sort of indicating they've all been uploaded. We also have Playbooks, Play Games, Play Magazines, Play Movies, Play Music, and the Play Store. We also have Quick Office, which is now included. This used to be a separate download. Basically, this allows you to create and edit documents that are compatible with Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. You also have settings. We're pretty familiar with. They have redesigned the icon, and we have the new Google Wallet app, which works with a new feature built in here, which is called Tap and Pay. So if we go to settings right here, you should see it here as another settings, Tap and Pay. This allows you to connect your NFC device to Google Wallet. It allows you to use that as your account for payment transactions. Now, if you're playing music and go to your lock screen, you now have full media controls here. So if you tap and hold one of them, you can get to your scrubber here, which allows you to scrub through your track. You can also advance to the next track, previous track, pause it. And you also get full screen album art. Now, also new under location settings is the ability to change how accurate it is. This also affects your battery life. So you can go to high accuracy, which will use GPS, Wi-Fi, and mobile networks to estimate location, or you can go to battery saving mode, which will just use Wi-Fi and mobile networks to estimate location. And you can also use device only mode, which basically uses the GPS antenna only to pinpoint your location. So you have a lot more options this time. Now, 4.4 also introduces full screen apps. So for example, if you go to the Playbooks app, it fills up the screen, hides the Android controls, as well as the menu bar up top. In order to access it, you just drop down here, wakes it up again, and there you go. Now we also have a new and improved continuous input keyboard, so we can just swipe around on the keys and it will recognize a word. So for example, hello, this is a test. So it works pretty well. Now I realize this sounds a little crazy, but one of my favorite new features with Android 4.4 is full printer integration. This is something that Android has not handled well, but iOS has with AirPrint. So we finally have full printing integration. Basically, this allows us to print websites, emails, and documents right from the device without jumping through a bunch of hoops to get to Google's Cloud Print services. So you can see that if we go to our printing control panel, we have Cloud Print, which are basically all the devices we have associated with our Cloud Print, which are quite a few in my case. Or you can go to HP Print Services plugin, which is here natively. So this will see all my HP printers on my wireless network. So it sees both of them. So I can select which one I want to use. In fact, that is the one I am currently next to. So let's go ahead and demonstrate this. I'm going to go to just a web browser. And I'm going to go up here to my settings, or my menu options, and as you can see, I have a print controller right there. So if I click print, I now have several options here. I can select my paper size, number of copies, color. So if I want to do it black and white, I can do that. I can also change the orientation and which pages I want to print. So I'm going to select a range here. I'm just going to do page 1. All right, so let's click print. So if you can hear my printer in the background, it's printing right away. It was basically instantaneous. So there we go. We have a dead tree version of the version. As you can see, it's in black and white, so it looks a little funky. Now Android 4.4 also makes it much easier to manage your launchers. If you go to settings, go to home, you'll see your launchers available to you. Of course, these are 2 launchers I installed from the Play Store. So you can select one of those to become your launcher, or you can go to your default launcher. So if you select Apex Launcher, go to home, it does take me to my Apex control. And if I want to undo that, go back to settings, go back to home, and go back to my native launcher, click home, and there we go. All right, so let's go and take a look at the stock camera app. So you have tap to focus, you have those little indicators to let you know when it's successful. You have your shutter release, which is pretty quick here. You can take several photos pretty quickly, and it's pretty quick to focus. You also have your options up here. So if you go up here, you see several options. So one of them is your exposure. And as you can see, it drills up and allows you to change your exposure manually if you prefer. But alternatively, you can also tap anywhere on the screen, tap and hold, and it brings up your control panel. So if you continue to hold your finger and move it up along the menu, you get several options here and it drills down. So for example, I have my scene modes. If I slide back down, it takes me back to my first or second layer. And then you have your white balance right here. Again, takes you up to your options. Slide back down, takes you back to your count timer, your location settings, and your picture size. And if you release that, it takes you to your picture control here. And if you tap and hold on it again, sometimes it's hard to bring it up. It tends to be a little frustrating and unreliable to use. There you go. And you can also activate HDR Plus mode. So HDR Plus mode basically takes several photos at once in several exposures and combines them through processing and gives you a photo with more richer colors and contrasting. So for example, we can take an HDR Plus photo. You can see how long it takes to put it all together. You also get a little different tone when this is happening, so listen for it. And there you go. So let's go ahead and turn that off and take a normal photo. Now we also have several shooting modes here. So we have our still camera, our video camera, panorama, and sphere mode. Sphere mode we're pretty familiar with. It has been slightly redesigned this time. So basically you position the camera, it takes the photo, and coaches you along to start building your photosphere. And when you're done, it renders it for you in the background. You can go back to your selection and choose panorama mode, which again we're pretty familiar with. So basically you hit record, and it coaches you along to start recording your panorama. Now taking a look at the video mode, we do not have tap to focus. This is autofocus only, and it works pretty well. In fact, you'll see it in the end of my video when I do a demo of the camera performance. You can see all the autofocusing is done automatically. It tends to be a little slow, but it's pretty smooth. Now when you're recording video, you can also take photos at the same time, which is one of the reasons they, I guess, turned off tap to focus here, because when you're recording video, you can go ahead and take photos. As you can see, it mutes the shutter release effect so it doesn't interrupt your audio. Now we also have our options up here, so you can switch to the front-firing camera. You can also enable torch mode, so you can turn on your flash. That's one way of getting to it. You can also change your white balance. And those are the few options you have. There's also one more here for your size. So if you go up to settings, well, you can turn off time lapse or turn on time lapse and change your video quality from 480p all the way up to 1080p. And you can also enable GPS location. So if you don't want this enabled, you can turn that off. It is on by default. Now, as usual, there is a little Easter egg hidden under settings. So if we go to settings, go to about phone. If we go to our Android version 4.4, just keep tapping it. Get you to this little Easter egg and keep tapping it and you get to Android and that sort of Kit Kat branding theme. Now getting back to this display, again, full 1080p resolution with 435 pixels per inch. That makes text really pin sharp, even smaller than you can possibly see from a normal reading distance. Now the display of the Nexus 5 is very similar to the iPhone 5S. It's not as bright and it's not as dark. It's not as rich in terms of its contrast and maybe not as rich as the color, but it's pretty close. Certainly better than an OLED display, which tends to be a little bluer and a little dimmer. So I'm definitely a big fan of what they've done here with this display, especially at this high resolution, this high pixel density tends to create displays that are a little darker. Now taking a look at our Geekbench scores, you can see that the Nexus 5 doubles the performance of the Nexus 4, at least potentially, and you can see the iPhone 5S by comparison, which is a much more powerful device on the single-core score, but the Nexus 5 has it on the multi-core score because this is working with quad cores, this is working with dual cores. Now in terms of performance, this phone is smooth and quick, and that's one of the great things about the Nexus device is that it's highly optimized and really quick. So the app launcher is really quick and smooth to launch. You can quickly jump between apps with no problem. Now we also have 802.11 AC wireless antennas in here, so we have pretty quick Wi-Fi. We certainly have next generation Wi-Fi, and as you can see, we can scroll through the entire verge of the website and move around really quickly and smoothly. So definitely a quick operating phone. Now taking a look at the size comparison between the Nexus 4, you can see it is a bit taller, but it's actually narrower than the Nexus 4. So they've been able to shrink down the bezels along the side, give us a comfortable phone to grip in one hand. It just means that your thumb travels a little bit more on this display than it did on the Nexus 4. Of course, we're going from a 4.7-inch display to a 4.95-inch display. Now, if you look at something like the Nexus or the GS4, now the GS4, this is actually the Google Play edition. The great thing about the GS4 is that this is a 5-inch display, again, with a really narrow bezel. So it's actually very similar in size to the Nexus 5. You can see it's a slightly larger display. And then, of course, we have the much smaller 4-inch iPhone 5S. Now, in conclusion, the Nexus 5 really isn't a remarkable smartphone. It's remarkable for the fact that it's a high-end or relatively high-end smartphone that costs $349. That's an insane price for a phone that would otherwise cost $649. So you get a bargain phone for the specs. And for me, the greatest advantage has nothing to do with pricing, but the latest stock Android experience. So for me, that is the most important factor here. It runs great on this hardware, and we have a pretty decent camera. I know there's a lot of complaints here. I will be posting video and photo samples at the end of this video so you can judge for yourself, but I'm pretty impressed by the camera. It could be a little faster, and it could be better performing in lower light conditions, but it's a pretty decent camera, and I don't think it's a reason not to buy this phone. You have a beautiful LCD IPS display, definitely a technology I prefer over OLED, so I'm glad to see that here. Samsung, or not Samsung, Google has decided not to go with OLED with the newest Nexus phone, so I'm glad to see that. And we have LTE, 4G LTE finally in this phone. The Nexus 4 never had it, which was kind of a deal breaker for me. I really wanted 4G LTE. And of course, we had two other great options. We had the Google Play editions of the S4 and the HTC One, but of course, these are much more expensive. Now, my biggest disappointment with the Nexus 5 is speaker quality. So these speakers are unusually quiet. In fact, I'm constantly raising the volume, trying to get volume up so I can hear whatever I'm listening to. So it always seems like the volume is just way too low. It's just those speakers are just a little too low grade. The earpiece is also pretty muffled sounding to me, so when I'm on a phone call quality is definitely not as strength. Now, they have improved the quality of the headphone driver over the Nexus 4, which was one of its big weaknesses for me. It's actually the reason I stopped using it, just because I used the headphones a lot, and the headphone driver was just too weak, so music was always too low, so I could never get the audio out of it that I wanted. Now, in terms of which design I prefer, I actually think I favor the black version, and that's because we have the soft touch material, which feels really nice in the hand, and it wraps the edges of the device, so it just feels a little more uniform and a little more comfortable to handle. This has three different materials going on. We have have this harder plastic along the back, which is more stain resistant, which is useful for white color. Then we have this glossy plastic along the side. Then we have our glass along the front. So the combination of materials doesn't feel as premium as this does. This just feels a little more uniform, a little simpler, and a little more comfortable to handle. And again, that grippy material feels really nice in the hand versus the harder materials here. Alright guys, so that is it for this video, but what I would like to know is which color do you prefer? Please let me know in the comment section below and tell me why. Thanks for watching this video, hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you again in the next one. Alright guys, Mike here, the Detroit Borg with a test of the front-firing camera. Again, this is recording video at 720p. This gives you an idea of both the microphone pickup as well as the video quality of something you might use for vlogging, video conferencing, or that sort of thing. Hey Zoe, how you doing? Zoe just had surgery to remove her baby teeth, so she's feeling pretty groggy today.